Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3625. Today's date is 5th of October 2025. It's been almost like a morning at 8:11 a.m. Okay. Uh, so what I want to tell you. Should we jump into the question? Yeah, let's jump into the question. Let's go. Okay, question is, what if quantum computer solve the world hunger? Okay, what exactly is this question? Okay, this is a what if question. Why am I asking this question to myself? I'm asking this question to myself so that I would be understand regarding about the concept of multiple things. Oh yeah. I don't know, yeah. Like basically what if questions are always like force you to think about that perspective, creating that unimagined reality and try to um, looked at in that way probably. I love giving the answer what if questions. It's really good. Disclaimer, by the way, the information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right, and it's not exactly wrong either. The information that I'm trying to tell you is whatever inside of my mind. I'm just expressing it. It's complete raw. It's complete unfiltered. It's just my thought. Okay, yeah. So, if I'm bigly wrong, then correct me. Yeah, correct me. Okay, yeah. If I'm kind of like a something, I don't know about that. I don't really have. It's a kind of like a something. Consider this thing is a kind of like an empty auditorium, and you are trying to sing. Okay, you are trying to sing. Okay, in empty auditorium, it doesn't really matter that how good is your sing. It's kind of like a something consider as a net practice that you can sing at least. It kind of like give you opportunity to sing. Um, when you try again, you kind of like suddenly feel really good, get confidence. And when you interact with a full of people with auditorium in real life, you will have that confidence and everything. So consider this artifact as a kind of like an empty auditorium that I'm trying to explain my ideas and stuff like that. Okay, so probably that idea is not really good and things like that. So yeah. Okay, so what exactly is this thing? What if can quantum computer can solve the world hunger? Well, let me tell you one thing. Quantum computer can solve not just world hunger. Okay? They can solve multiple things. Okay, how and what and how is this thing actually possible? Okay, let me give you the context. Okay, first of all, let me give you the example. What is exactly the quantum computer? Okay, what is exactly the quantum computer? The computer that we are using, those are run on binary language. Okay, what's the binary language? Okay, so basically the machine like a computer are actually communicate, like basically we are actually communicate with each other by language. Okay, yeah, like I am speaking English, you are listening English. Okay, so English is a language that I'm actually sharing my ideas towards to you. Okay, yeah. Go to the every corner of the world, people actually talk with their language. Language is very much essential to communicate with the people, right? If I went to China, I can't speak Chinese, Chinese can't speak English. How do I communicate with them? Probably I'm just okay. Also, let me tell you one thing now. Uh, we don't really okay. This is kind of like something very off topic, but I wanted to kind of like describe this thing. Okay, for our communication na? Okay, yeah, we would think that ki language is kind of like a simply way of communication, but that is only 2% of communication. Sorry, 7% of communication. 7% in 100%, the way that we kind of like communicate, imagine as a 100% of communication, we use only 7% to use a language to communicate. Only 7%. 50% are actually communicate by our gesture, hand gesture or expression or things like that. 50%. Oh yeah. And almost like 43% is communicate through tone of language. Tone, like a basically, "Hey, kya re? Hey, kuch nahi re." This is kind of like a simply tone. And basically, is this thing. Let me tell you one thing now. 7% only required a language, and rest of almost like a 97% is actually based on gesture, the way that you kind of like a talk and things, like basically expressions, and the tone of language. Okay. So let me tell you one thing. If you don't really know any kind of like a language, if you went to China, you can't speak Chinese and they can't speak English, still you can communicate, and very good communicate. Probably. Okay, yeah, very good you can communicate. That is, and this is kind of like a something very, like a very really good thing about humans. Okay, yeah. Just if you don't know, just go to the kind of like a any random country that you don't know their language, still you could communicate. Yeah, just I'm bet you can, like I'm not clearly way, but still you can kind of like communicate with very much basic and very much kind of like you can communicate. It's very hard to explain how much you could communicate, but you could communicate. All right. Okay, yeah. So let me tell you one thing. We are humans and we need a language to communication. Okay, yeah. So as machine has also a language too, and that language called binary language. Okay, yeah. What is that binary language? The binary language is 0 and 1. Now, first of all, I am gonna ask one question. Okay, I communicate with other people. How does machine communicate with other machine? Like basically, what kind of like other machine? Like basically, does one computer connect with communicate with another computer? Yeah, like we have internet, we have things. Okay, yeah, like a machine means like that. I'm not considered as a kind of just a computer. There is a lot of things, like your mobile phone is a machine, your computer is a machine, your tablet, your satellite, your data, your receiver, everything is a machine, dude. And they are actually sending, transmitting data by which language? Binary language. Okay, like basically the word that I'm saying right now at the moment. Okay, yeah, all those kind of like a data. This is the audio format, by the way. Audio is actually converted into the binary, uploaded onto the YouTube data center, and it kind of like simply listen at you at 0 and 0, and it converted into the audio frequency so that you would kind of like a listening right now. Binary code is a kind of like a language that machine would communicate. Understand? Okay. Now, uh, basically, is this thing. Let's just kind of like somebody imagine a particular scenario. Okay, yeah. Now, I can speak English, I can speak Marathi, I can speak Hindi. Okay, yeah. These are kind of like a three language that I could speak, write, and talk, means communicate. Three language. Okay, yeah. But if I went to China, I can't communicate because of that they speak Chinese language and I don't know the Chinese language, right? If I went to Spain, I can't speak Spanish, so I can't communicate in them Spanish, right? So this is kind of like some problem that I have, that if I wanted to communicate all the kind of like a people in all around the world, I have to be know every language, because Spanish, English, Chinese, Portuguese, every language that I have to know, then I would kind of like communicate with people, right? Yeah. So this is kind of like a barrier that we have. Okay, yeah. And same barrier that machine language have. They only have a two kind of like a source. They have only two letters. Like basically 0 and 1 letter. Okay, yeah. Like basically either the information might be a 0, either the information might be 1. Okay, means like that कि I can kind of like simply speak only one language, or I could speak multiple language, but I can't know all the language at the same time. It's not humanly possible. I might kind of like learn maybe multiple language, maybe 3 or maybe 4, but probably more than that I can't, because it's not possible. I could kind of like talk multiple language, like basically let's just say I'm kind of like talking in Spanish, maybe kind of like a little, but not the way that kind of like somebody, like I'm not kind of like somebody fluent in that particular language, because I'm not really used to with that thing. Same thing with a machine is either be a 0, either be a 1. Okay, yeah, they have like basically imagine this thing as a kind of like assembly. A 0 is one language, 1 is one language. Okay, yeah, and basically they always kind of like a try to jump and things and that. Now, basically is this thing, if I try to communicate, like basically the way that we communicate and way that we machine communicate is a very different way. Okay, yeah, we communicate by sharing our thoughts and things like that. The machine communicate by possibility. Now, what is actually possibility? The possibility to be a information might be a 0 or information might be a 1. Okay, yeah. A machine cannot understand the information of both at the same time. Okay, what is actually both means what? Both means what? Key, I can learn multiple language at the same time, but machine can't. Either machine can speak only 0 language or 1 language. They can't speak both. But it's a hypothetical scenario, by the way. If you just, I'm trying to explain as simple as possible way so that you would understand. Okay, yeah. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing, machine can't kind of like a simply just make, machine just can't like basically like the possibility of 0 and 1, it's always stick. It does not change. It does not change. Either kind of like a machine would be a right or either machine would be a wrong. Okay, there is no like a bridge between them, nothing really at all. Now quantum computer is actually solve that particular problem by kind of like a simply changing its language or possibility when it needed. Okay, still not really understand. Okay, yeah, I know it's very hard to explain this thing, it's a topic. Okay, yeah. Now I'm trying to simplify as simple as possible as you can. Okay, yeah. Imagine you are kind of like a solve a puzzle, a maze. You know maze. Maze is a kind of like a something that ki a cluster of kind of like a some particular way. There is only in way and there is only one out way. Okay, yeah. But inside that maze, there is a kind of like a lot of route that kind of like a leads to dead end and things and that, which leads to like basically which leads to kind of like a somebody complex, like I can't found my kind of like a way that I would get out and things like that. It's very hard to get out a maze. Oh yeah. Now a normal computer, what we're gonna do is that a normal computer can go and kind of like a choose every way. Okay, yeah, it fail, then it kind of like a try again, it fail, it try again, it fail, it try again, it fail, it try again. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you, imagine you are solving a maze. You kind of like a start a position leads to a okay, there is a something really happened with my toes. Yeah, okay, whatever. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that key you started away at the beginning. Okay, you started the maze, okay, from the initial point, and you are kind of, you have only one job to kind of like a reach to the another end of the maze. Okay, you have to get out that maze. So what is actually happened, you start from initial state. Okay, yeah, and you choose every way. Okay, now every way leads to wrong, only one way leads to right way. Let's just take a possibility that in that particular maze there is a hundreds of possibility. In the hundreds of possibility, only one possibility is leads to right, it leads to kind of like a you can go out. Only one possibility, rest of the 99 possibilities are went wrong. Now what exactly our machine is capable enough at the moment, our machine is kind of like assembly goes to 99 possibility that leads to wrong way, and then it kind of like leads to right way. Yeah, like basically every time it just go, it fail, it start try again, it go, it fail, try again, 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 fail, try again. Okay, yeah, only 73 possibility that he might found that this is the way that it could go get out from that maze. And yeah, so this is kind of like a really right way, na? Yeah, this is right way, but the problem is that it takes time. It takes time. Okay, yeah. Now, what is actually supercomputer do? A supercomputer is have kind of like a simply possibility of kind of like a simply change its parameter from 0 to 1. Okay, so what exactly it means? It means that the supercomputer is kind of like a somebody doesn't really try and fail and all the time and things like that. No, it kind of like a somebody goes straight. Okay, yeah. If it lead to kind of like a something a wrong way, okay, yeah, it just kind of like a somebody learn from that. Okay, it's a wrong way. Do not go there. Okay, yeah, and basically like it's very hard to explain as a supercomputer at the moment. Okay, a supercomputer can solve the maze with very minimum possibility. Or probably if you just kind of like a understand, because as a supercomputer will be a kind of like a something a 0 and 1 at the same time. So basically there is no filter at all. There is no kind of like some wrong way at all. There is like, I don't know. It's a how should I supposed to be like at the moment. I just only one thing I know that ki quantum computer will be a kind of like a some 0 and 1 at the same time. Okay, yeah. It could kind of like a go into 0. It could be a kind of like a something 1 2. Okay, yeah. Because of this thing, the possibility of kind of like a solving the maze would be kind of like a little less. One thing. Another thing is that the information is always kind of like a try to figure it's a like a processing speed would be really good. Okay, yeah. Okay, but why we are kind of like doing this thing, why we are kind of like leading this way, what exactly is this stuff, what exactly that? Okay, so this is what kind of like somebody lead to something really a better future. And what is that better future? Okay, look at around yourself. There is a lot of chaos. I'm living in India. A lot of chaos, hunger. At some people, at some part of country, people are getting a lot of food. I am getting a lot of food. My family has a blessed with a lot of food. Okay, yeah. There is a kind of like a different part of my country. People don't really get food. There is a kind of like a simply problem. Now, what's the problem? Yeah, that we don't really have a food. No, we have abundant of food. Then why those people are not getting food? Is because of lot of stuff like basically they are poor, they don't really have money and things and that. But still we also have kind of like a lot of kind of like a assembly schemes and kind of like a lot of kind of like a something government subsidies that those people will kind of like get the food all the time. Yeah, but after all those things, why does people are hunger? Like what is exactly the reason, what exactly is this thing? Like we have a food, we have a subsidy, we have everything that kind of like a something we could kind of like a fill up the like a like basically we can provide the food. Why we cannot provide the food? What exactly is this reason? Okay, what exactly that is? Because of we are in higher number. Okay, yeah. Okay, what is exactly higher in number? The population of India is almost like a maybe 100, like a probably 1.2 billion, 1.2, 1.3 probably. At the moment 1.3, 1.3 or 1.4. Wait, let me Google it. Okay, yeah. Just say POPUL population of India is 145 crore. That means 1.4 billion. Okay, yeah. 1.4 billion, na? Yeah. 1.4 billion. 1 point like basically tell me in billion. Yeah, 1.4 billion. Yeah, so we have a population of 1.4 billion. So as I mentioned, we are in so much in number. 1.4 billion people are existing here. Now let me give you the context. Okay, how big is that number? Okay, I'm kind of like simply giving you a scenario. You just have to give me an answer. Okay, 1 billion second means how much time? A 1 billion second. 1 billion second. Now, some of the people might think that ki probably would be a year, or maybe 5 year, or maybe 6 months, or maybe, yeah. This is kind of like something your might be answer. Okay, yeah. Can you guess the what is actually right answer? 1 billion second means 34 fucking year. 34 year, dude. 34 year. 34, 33 something, 33 point something, almost like a 34 year. 1 billion second means 34 year probably. So if I start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, it took me 34 year to complete 1 billion second. This is really, really huge and really, really massive. This is like extremely big, dude. Too much. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that 1.4 billion population of the India is very much, like really, really too much. Okay, yeah. And also we are not in kind of like some the same category of the people. Some people are rich, medium, some people are ultra poor and things like that. All those 1.4 billion people are scattered all over the country. It's, and our country is also really bigger country, like basically from area point of perspective, we are the seventh kind of like a something country which is kind of like a something in area. Okay, yeah, seventh rank in area. So basically this thing, it was very hard to kind of like a simply provide the food for 1.4 billion people at the right time, at the right moment, and things and that. Okay, yeah. And all the kind of like the subsidy and everything that we have is kind of like a simply just is not kind of like a capable enough to handle at that thing. Okay, yeah. Okay, let me tell you one thing. What kind of like a only way that we are utilizing right now to kind of like a feeding 1.4 billion people, or like a whatever the kind of like a people. Okay, let's just say that in 1.4 billion people, let's just say 1.2 billion people are kind of like a getting food. 0.2 billion people are not getting food. Okay, yeah. Now, first of all, ask question to myself that how do we provide 1.2 billion people food? How are we providing that? We are actually providing by kind of like assembly a common way to kind of like assembly people get the food. And what is really common way? You have a money, you get the food, right? So probably 1.2 billion people have a money to buy food, so they get the food. Now 0.2 billion people doesn't really have money, so that's why they didn't really get a food. For that particular thing, we have a kind of like a subsidy program, like a midday meal program, or kind of like a lot of program, like basically not only government, like as also state government also run a lot of program to kind of like a feed the kind of like a solve the hunger and things like that. But after all those things, 0.2 billion people are not getting that much food. So what exactly reason? What exactly is this thing? What is exactly that? Okay, yeah. I'm living in India, so I'm gonna kind of like somebody giving you answer about kind of like somebody whatever I'm actually seeing at the moment and seen it in my entire life and stuff like that. Okay. We have a lot of food that is wasted, and we have a lot of food that people didn't really get it. Okay, if you went to Bombay, Delhi, every hotel has a kind of like a couple of food is kind of like a wasted. Okay, yeah, and that is true. That is true. And this is what kind of like a simply matter. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing: what if we could kind of like a utilize our food in efficient way? And how do we supposed to do that? How do we supposed to utilize food in efficient way? By kind of like a computing all those kind of like a resources in manage way, like basically manage our food in kind of like a simply one big like. Okay, what is exactly what I'm trying to tell you? Okay, yeah. Imagine that a one person can kind of like a giving the food for 1.4 billion people. Let's just say our prime minister. A prime minister is kind of like a providing food for 1.4 billions of people. Okay, yeah. Now basically our prime minister, it cannot know all the 1.4 billion people and everything. Okay, and prime minister cannot do as a not a prime minister, as a kind of like any normal person cannot provide food for almost like a 1.4 billion people. It's not possible. It's not, definitely not, because there is a lot of things, money involved, where that particular person is actually involved, what kind of like some food that I'm gonna deliver and things like that. There is a lot of questions actually arise and things like that. How do I supposed to deliver? Lot of stuff. So we need a kind of like a centralized unit. Okay, a centralized unit, a electronic centralized unit that could run by the supercomputer. Now, what could supercomputer do? A supercomputer could kind of like simply understand that key how much food that we have per year. Okay, and also he could calculate that how much food required for feed 1.4 billion people. Okay, now when we have calculation, then supercomputer also calculate that how do we kind of like a food required per day to feed 1.4 billion people. Okay, now when we do that particular calculation, now another thing is that how do I supposed to provide a efficient way to provide the food for 1.4 billion people. Okay, also another question is actually rise, like some people actually kind of like giving a money, they don't want food for free, they also wanted to give the money. So what kind of like a way to provide the food for them, and what kind of like a way to provide the food for people who not paying money. Okay, also there is a lot of cluster and things like that, there is a lot of kind of like a chain and things and that like a millions of possibilities actually happen and things and that. As a supercomputer actually kind of like a went through all the millions of possibility that what could went wrong, what could kind of like assembly way to kind of like assembly that key I fail, I will be fail in kind of like assembly one feed the 1.4 billion people, like a same example as a maze. In the maze, like basically almost like a 100 out of only one possibility went into right. So this is what exactly happened in the supercomputer, that key in this particular situation there is a kind of like assembly, let's just say 1.4 billion kind of like a possibility that kind of like assembly might gonna fail, but there is only one possibility that kind of like a leads to a kind of like assembly right way, leads to a kind of like assembly right way, that a supercomputer can understand this is the way that kind of like assembly we could feed 1.4 billion people on this way, that delivery is good, or kind of like assembly the way that the some of the food are perishable, so probably how do we supposed to things and that, like basically it creates all the possibility logistic chain reaction, how do we supposed to deliver, and where, what kind of like a food, how, what kind of like everything is kind of like assembly designed by the supercomputer. All you obviously a supercomputer cannot do by itself. Obviously, it really required artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence and supercomputer, when they both are combined, they would be a very much efficient. Because as a supercomputer is a kind of like a something a stronger workforce, but AI is a kind of like a something artificial intelligence is kind of like a leads you to the right way, that regarding about the information that AI has. Okay, so basically if this thing happened as a supercomputer kind of like a somebody give you a provide you a food for things and that, which is really good. Now there is a one question that I'm trying to tell you. Supercomputer are not a future concept or kind of like a things. We have supercomputer, a quantum computer, we have that. Okay, what do you mean we have? We have quantum computer. Okay, we have like do we have like in 2025 do we have a quantum computer? Yes, we have quantum computer. Okay, then why not world hunger problem solve? Why not? Have you ever thought that ki why not, like basically is this thing, we have all the resources, we have artificial intelligence, we have quantum computer too, we are actually utilizing those, like basically open your Gemini, like a Gemini is a kind of like a something AI from Google, and basically Google is actually invented the quantum computer. We have quantum computer, it's legit, by the way, it's legit. Okay, yeah, then why not we are solving all those problems, why not we are solving hunger problems and things and that. Now this is the kind of like question that you have to arise. Okay, yeah. Now let me tell you one thing, one of the kind of like some very dirtiest technique in part of development, in part of kind of like a growth and things like that. What's the dirtiest technique, or a kind of like a some way that कि growth is not depend and is not depend on how do I provide my facility to more and more people. No, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is this thing. It's not kind of like simply a human decide. It's a nature decide too. Okay, nature kind of like a simply something like that ki um, give them preference to live the life. Okay, and nature eliminates such a species that species cannot able to survive by itself. Okay, what is exactly that? Okay, I'm gonna give you kind of a couple of example. Okay, a kind of like a nature's law, and you have to understand that thing. Okay, brown bear and a polar bear. Okay, now brown bear are live in forest. Polar bear are live in ice or ice area. Okay, also the information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right, it's not exactly wrong, it's just my thought process. Okay, disclaimer I already kind of like a provided to you. All right, yeah. Now basically is this thing, a polar bear can't able to survive in forest, and basically as a brown bear can't able to survive in kind of like a winter cold ice. By the way, polar bear and winter bear, there is no category at the beginning. They only have only have bear, a bhalu, huh? A bear. Now, what exactly happened? That some of the bear are kind of like somebody started living in kind of like ice. Some of the bear are kind of like started living in forest. Okay. Now, what exactly happened? That ki probably in a forest they are kind of like simply food and things and that and that. So basically is this thing, people are the bear are kind of like started living in forest, but some of the area is there is no forest at all, always ice and things like that. So some of the bear are kind of like simply just started living in kind of like a ice. Now I'm kind of like a give you category. Okay, let's just imagine that four bear. Okay, not just like eight bear. Okay, let's just divide into the two group. Okay, means like that in cold area there is a two white bear, like a white polar bear, and two brown bear. By the way, those are four bear are kind of like considered as a friend, and same thing happened in kind of like a two polar bear and two brown bear. Okay, by the way, polar bear and brown bear, these are kind of like a term that we know at the moment, but like basically imagine this thing, there is a four bear. Okay, like basically there is a four bear at the ice winter, and there is a four bear at the forest. Okay, now basically let's take a kind of like some icy example. The only two bear are survive and two bear are kind of like a die is because of winter cold, right? One thing. Another thing is that in the forest some of the bear are kind of like a simply just die is because of that they didn't really maneuver themselves that much faster or things like that, they don't really have that claws and things and something like that. So two pair are die. What I'm trying to tell you, what is exactly the lesson that I'm trying to tell you? Lesson that I'm trying to tell you is this thing, nature eliminate such a species are not worthy, are not worthy to survive. And this is nature's law, by the way. Nature's law, like a nature wants you to die if you are not utilizing your time or you are not utilizing for your effort for like right reason. And if you are not like added any value in a kind of like a nature's law and things like that, nature's wants you to die. Nature's wants you to die. Legitly, nature wants you to die. So that's why most of the species and die and things like that. Another question. Okay, let me give you another question. In Jurassic World, why humans are not evolved? Why another species are not actually evolved? What is actually reason is that? Because of that, the Jurassic World, there is a lot of dinosaurs which is carnivorous, and they always eat all those animals. So another species don't really have any room to improve their life or improve their species and things like that. So that's why those species are not really evolved. So species, like basically nature is actually kind of like a tell them, do not survive, like basically you are not worthy to survive on this planet. Okay, so they only preference a kind of like a dinosaur to live for kind of like a 150 million on the planet. Do you get it? So nature always preference for such a species who would kind of like a worthy to survive by itself. Okay, yeah. This is the same example that we have a supercomputer, we have a quantum computer, we have a artificial intelligence, and we could solve the problem of world hunger, world poverty, and everything, but still we cannot, because of that the people who are not worthy to kind of like a solve their problem by hunger or money or things like that, as a government wants you to die. As a government, as a legit government, not just Indian government, not just every part of the country of the government wants you to die because you are not worthy to live on this planet or live on my country on things like that. And this is nature's law, not the nature's law. It's everything's law, dude. Everything's. So do you get it? So if you are kind of like a person who are facing a lot of problems, and you always kind of like a blaming that the government is kind of like a wrong and things and something like that, it's not the problem of government, it's the problem of you, because you are not fighting for your condition. I know you are kind of like a come from very fucked up position and things, and you kind of like a face a lot of kind of like a problem and things and that and that. There is a lot of stuff. But dude, let me tell you one thing. As a nature and as a kind of like a natural law only supports such a species who would kind of like a fight for his survival. And if you are poor, if you are not earning any money, and if you are kind of like a living hunger and things like that, you are not kind of like a somebody wants to survive. You should supposed to be die. Indirect way to kind of like say that you should supposed to be die. Do you get it? And this is the reality, by the way. This is legit reality. Yeah. So get it? By the way, still the information that I just heard at somewhere and something, and it was kind of like something just I'm trying to explain. Okay. Also, the information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right. It's not exactly wrong. It's just in my thoughts and things like that. I think that it would be that. All right. Is it? I should supposed to be end here. Thank you.